Been sleeping for too long. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up! Wake up! I see the sunshine gazing through the window pane, blazing like endo flame. It's time to wake up. Come to your senses, man. Snow is all around you, but you don't play in the winter game. Cartridges surround you, but you ain't playing Nintendo games. Load them up.
On today's podcast, we are going to discuss escapism. And what is escapism? You know, some people may have heard this term, but some people may have not. I came across this term about 4 years ago, and the person who introduced it to me was somebody I was connected with on Facebook, and he was talking about how escapism is one of the biggest problems that Black people face. And I was like, what the heck is he talking about, escapism? I kind of got the escape part, like, you know, you're leaving, you're trying to get away from something. But ism, I didn't understand escapism. And what he was saying was escapism is this thing that we utilize to get away from all this, stress, pain, frustration that we have. We will utilize different things to get our minds off of stuff and to not be focused on things. And what he was saying was, the reason why this is a big problem for us as Black folks is because we will stay in escapism. We don't just use it temporarily and then move forward. We will just stay there, and we will stay in like fantasy thinking, and we will stay with what some people may have heard, you know, having your head in the sand. He said we will just stay like this because it's more comfortable to be like this than to face some of these very difficult and complex issues head on. And he said this is one of the reasons why we continue to be in messed up situations like we are. And I was like, dang, that's kind of profound. So I over the years, I've, tried to build on that concept, try to do some research and checking out things on that concept of escapism. And this is what I've come up with so far. This is my definition for escapism. Escapism is the systematic process of compensating for inferior social and or psychological beliefs, feelings, and statuses. The tendency to seek distraction and relief from unpleasing realities, especially by seeking entertainment or engaging in fantasy. Let me repeat that. Escapism, the systematic process of compensating for inferior social and or psychological beliefs, feelings, and statuses. The tendency to seek distraction and relief from unpleasing realities, especially by seeking entertainment or engaging in fantasy. Boom. You know, this is seen a lot. And one of the things that I learned is that we would utilize escapism to soothe our pain, to lessen our stress. It's an attempt to soothe the pain, and we do that by using things like, half truths, just plain ignoring things, not willing to take in new information, not willing to listen to different people who have the same or who don't share the same belief systems as us. And we do this often, It's something that I think everybody has. I think everybody has a level of escapism. One of the basic examples of this is if you think about how we look at the weekend, not the Weeknd, the singer, the actual weekend, Friday night to Sunday night. And I've included Friday evening into the weekend because that's how a lot of people, they can't wait. We have this, this concept in the United States, TGIF, thank God it's Friday, because people have been working hard all week. You've been putting in your 40 plus hours, 60 hours in some fields. You've been doing all this stuff and stress from the week that you finally get to the weekend. And now it's time for you to, party. It's time for you to relax. It's time for you to go shopping and get that big TV that's on sale. It's time for you to do things. And we created this concept of the weekend as this destination. It's almost like a weekly vacation, almost how people think of it. It's like, oh my God, thank God it's Saturday and I get to go to church on Sunday, and Friday night I'm going to go party. And it's like, we have created this concept of the weekend as this destination break, as this get away from our daily stress of work or daily tasks that go on throughout the week, whether it's school or whatever the case may be. And I think that is a version of escapism, because if we're honest, the weekend is not much different than any other day of the week. Like it doesn't really matter. Yes, you do not have to go to work typically, or you don't have to go to school if you're in college, or, you know, maybe if you're in the military, you might get a break on the weekend. But at the same time, like, what's the difference between Saturday and Tuesday? It's not big. It's not that big of a difference. However, we've created this social construct that it is. And that's part of escapism, because we create these fantasies and, you know, we create these alternative realities for ourselves to make ourselves feel better, so we can just get through the daily tasks that are stressful, the daily tasks that are time consuming, the daily tasks that get a majority of our attention. And then we create this concept of the weekend to just go out and not have any worries or be carefree or connect with people that we love, and when we should and can be doing those things at any point during the week, right? So another example of escapism is how people get caught up in entertainment, and this is huge. When I talk to young people about this, I talk about sports, because most people can relate to sports, even if they don't play sports or like sports. They can kind of understand sports, because sports is a huge element in our society, in the world. Man, sports is used all over the world. I think about like how soccer and cricket are used over outside of the United States, and then here in the United States, our attachments to, I think, American football is probably the biggest sport that people have an allegiance to. I would say, I don't think it's the biggest sport that people bring in money, but as far as allegiance, professional, or not just professional football, American football, because college football is pretty huge too. And I would say that basketball is next, and then baseball would be third, and then hockey and all that stuff just kind of falls down there. But the way that we view sports is huge, and some of it's regional. So like where I'm at, Minnesota, up north, hockey's a big thing. I don't mess around with hockey. That's not my jam. That's not how I get down. But they go hard for hockey up here, man. They go super hard for hockey up here. But if you think about places like Texas, if you think about places like Florida, Alabama, Georgia, they go hard for football. They go super hard for football. And if you think about some more East Coast, and I guess on the West Coast, they got other stuff to do on the West Coast. But think about like Upper East Coast and stuff. Basketball is pretty big sport. So some of it's regional, but sports is still a significant form of entertainment and form of activity that we associate ourselves with in the United States. So, or in the world. And a lot of time, some of the things that I see with sports is just mind-boggling, man. It's like, what the hell? And I really didn't pay much attention to this. I grew up playing football. I was a pretty decent player. Grew up playing football, and I never really analyzed it till I got to college. And I would say sophomore year is when I started to do a lot more thinking of like why do people react and respond to sports the way they are. And I was taking a sociology class on sports. I think it was on sports and race. I don't know. Race came up a lot in this class, but I think it was just supposed to be on sports. But the professor wanted to talk about race that semester, or whatever the case may be. But anyway, I came in contact with this book called The $40 Million Slave, or $40 Million Slaves. Man, I mean, this is probably one of the best books I've ever read in my life. Mind you, at this time, I wasn't reading a lot of books. So maybe that was part of it. It's like, oh, I discovered reading. But when I read this book, it really helped develop a context for how sports has played this huge role in shaping society, and escapism is part of that. And I think, and I look, and I try to understand, and I try to read about why do people attach ourselves to sports so much. Like if you've been on a college campus, if you went to college, and they have sports teams at this college, because every college doesn't have athletic teams, but if they do, watch how people associate themselves. Like people will literally fight over teams. People will be at tailgating parties and be fighting. People be rioting after teams win championships. Like right now, the Cubs are going to the World Series. I just seen that. Like, but these people in Chicago are about to be lit, especially if they win. Oh my God, it's over 100 years they haven't been to a World Series, and now if they win, it's about to be lit. And it's like, why do people get that damn attached and involved in sports, especially if they don't play on the teams or their family members don't play on these teams? But we have to find social identity, and we have to connect to things. And I think that that's a form of escapism. So the people in Chicago are feeling super good right now. They're feeling really good. The Cubs are in the World Series. We haven't had a championship. Like, listen to this language. We haven't had a championship in so long. We never experienced this. I grew up all my life a Cubs fan. My dad, my mom, they were Cubs fans, and now, they never got to experience this. So if they win, this is for them. It's like, what? Well, it has nothing to do with them. So, but we attach our identities to sports teams like it's crazy, and that's a form of escapism, because at the end of the day, we don't have anything to do with that. I mean, yes, we pay for things. We go to games. We get subscriptions on television, and we buy merchandise, and we go to the stadiums, and we get food and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you're not winning a championship. Like, you are not. It might feel good to say, yeah, the team that you like won the championship, but that's not you. But we attach ourselves because we live in that fantasy. Like, we fantasize about being a part of the team when we are fans, and that's it. And fanatics, and that's it. We're not owners. We're not players. We're not executives. We're not coaches. We're not any of those things. We're just people who enjoy to watch the game. But people will associate themselves very heavily with teams. It's crazy. The other team in the World Series is the Cleveland Indians, and they've had a long history of not winning very much in Cleveland, and they're just as ecstatic. So you got two teams in the World Series right now who have not had a lot of success. And I guarantee you, mark my words, before the end of this, actually not before, when this thing is over, when this World Series is over, either Cleveland or Chicago, one of them two places is going to be up in smoke with people rioting and going crazy. I guarantee it. I'm willing to bet that one of these two places is about to be off the chain. Now, it might not be a huge thing, like a huge fire, but it's going to be some wreckage. So it's going to be some messed up stuff cracking in one of these two cities, because people have attached their identity so strong to sports that they're willing to just start tearing up stuff if their team wins or if their team loses. It's just mind-boggling. It's very mind-boggling to me. But that's part of escapism, that we start attaching ourselves to fantasies and things and creating these concepts for things that are not necessarily for us or about us. It's crazy. It's crazy. Watch what I'm saying. Watch this in the next week and a half, 2 weeks. I don't know how long the World Series lasts, but the next 2 to 3 weeks. Pay attention to Cleveland, Ohio. Pay attention to Chicago, Illinois. One of those two places is going to be cracking. It's going to be straight up just damage. It's win or lose. Win or lose is going to be damage. Craziness. But yeah, I've noticed so much attachment to just things that are not necessarily who we are, not necessarily what we're about. A lot of people hold on to these fantasies. A lot of people associate themselves with things that have nothing to do with them, just to feel better, just to escape from their realities. One of the things another example of this, and I'm not going to get too deep into this because I know a lot of people talk about this. I see a lot of YouTube videos of people criticizing this, but reality TV is a great example of that. Now, most people know that reality TV is not real. We just know this. Come on now. It's ridiculous. Like, it's so scripted. It's like almost predictable at times. And sometimes it's just repetitive. It's the same concept over and over and over. However, the reason why people will keep eating that up and keep watching is because it's providing people that level of entertainment that says, man, these people's lives is messed up and they're rich and they got money. Even though a lot of times people ain't rich, but they're on TV, so everybody on TV's got money. So, and that's just the general concept that people have. But we associate ourselves so much with these reality shows and these stars and these personalities who are in these shows, and we just get caught up in it. And it's like, how many times can you watch, 10 to 12 episodes of somebody arguing with each other, fighting with each other, going through all this ups and downs, and then they have some fun, and then they go out to brunch, and then and then they have a reunion show, and then somebody gets into a big fight, and then we wait another 6 to 8 months for the next season to come out for them to do the same thing over and over again. It's like, this stuff is wild, but we love it. It is entertainment, but a lot of times what I've noticed is that people start associating all different types of themselves with these characters on these reality shows. Like, whoa, you are not this person, and the person that you're dating does not act like this person, and you don't have to aspire to be like this person, but we do this. And one of the keys that allows escapism to work, and one of the things that it's important to dismantle the level of escapism that we have, is being honest. Honesty. Being honest is so very important, because if you're honest about who you are, if you're honest about what's going on in your life, and you're paying attention to your reality, that's a core element to building character, right? It's a core element to building character for what we need to survive in this world moving forward. And a lot of times we're not honest with ourselves. Like, why are we paying and investing so much money, resources, and energy into things that really do not associate with us, but we will do this? And we have to keep in mind that, when we do this is very damaging. This is very non-constructive when we are always trying to escape from our realities. Because at the end of the day, your favorite reality star is not going to pay those bills for you, right? They're not going to help you get that job. They're not going to help you finish, those term papers in college. They're not going to help, feed your kids. They're not going to help do a lot of different things, but we will invest a lot of our time, resources, and energy into this. And I think that that's very dangerous. Yeah. And, sometimes we don't even intend to put so much of an investment into escapism. It just happens. Sometimes, it's what we've seen our parents do. It's what everybody we know does. Maybe we even get involved because a lot of people in our friends, our social circles, they do it, so we don't want to be left out. So we'll just dive in and start watching a show, or we'll binge on Netflix, or whatever the case may be, just so we're not left out in our social circles. And then we get caught up in it by circumstance. And I think that that's also concerning as well, is that you're doing stuff to please the social circle around you, and you're not doing stuff for yourself. That can be dangerous as well. We're gonna read this book because everybody at church is reading this book, and everybody at church is listening to so and so I'm gonna do it too, even though you might not like it, but you just don't want to be left out socially. And that's very dangerous. And I know a lot of people that do stuff like that. It's like, why do you have to feel so left? Why do you have to feel so in the circle that you're willing to do things that you might not necessarily want to do, just so you can be a part of everybody else's fantasy thinking? Very, very dangerous stuff. Very dangerous stuff. However, I do believe that a certain level of escapism is necessary. I'm gonna be honest with you. We live in a very stressful, frustrating, traumatic world and society where a lot of bad things happen. We see a lot of stuff, just scrolling through your timeline. You see a lot of things that are frustrating. You see a lot of things that have you questioning, like, what's going on in the world. And I think a certain level of escapism is good. So whether that's going to see a movie, whether that's reading books, or watching reality TV, sports, whatever the case may be, sometimes I do believe that it is necessary for you to just take a mental break and just get into some foolishness and then come back. However, if you are getting caught in the foolishness, if the foolishness is a core activity that you are participating in, that's when it becomes a problem. At the end of the day, the main thing that you should be doing is being constructive. That's why I always say, be safe, be constructive, be woke, because you need to be constructive. All the actions that we do need to be constructive. Now, I know no one's perfect. Everything we do is not going to be constructive, but 90% of the things, I would say 90 to 95% of the things you do should be constructive. The other 5% should be on some escapism, some foolishness, some things that just make you feel good in the short term. But make sure whatever you're doing doesn't have life-altering effects. So don't be getting into, having sex with a bunch of random people and you don't have no protection, or you ain't, checking out the person, or you don't know the person very well that you're having sex with, whatever the case may be. Don't get into that type of escapism, because that can have a bad life-altering effect for real. So make sure that what you're doing, that's why I always say be safe. Make sure no matter what you're doing it safely. So if you about to go drink, you about to go turn up this weekend, make sure that you do it safely. If you are gonna have sex with somebody, you're gonna get your freak on, make sure you do it safely. If you're gonna go smoke some weed, make sure you do it safely. I'm not here to judge you on what you do. Just make sure you do it safely. Make sure that you are being constructive, and make sure you're being woke. Make sure you're being alert. Make sure you're paying attention. Make sure you are being honest about what you're doing when you're doing it. Stand by your word. We all do things. We all have our vices. We all have our things to escape. I know I do. This weekend, I am going to be watching football. That's one of the things that I do. That's part of my escapism. I built that in. But at the same time, please believe, when I'm watching football, I'm also doing other things that are constructive, whether that's writing, thinking of different ideas for the podcast, or connecting with people to bring on as guests, working on a book, catching up on work from the week that I didn't finish, or whatever the case may be. Continuing to be constructive even as I'm participating in my mental escape, to lessen some of my frustrations and things throughout the day. Still being constructive at the same time, and that takes work. And I hope that this podcast has you thinking, what level of escapism am I diving into? And how can I kind of, either lessen that, or how can I find escapism? And some people are so serious about everything that they never get a break. They're just so focused that they never get a break. And I think that that's not healthy either. In life, one of the biggest things that we can do is find ways to be manageable and sustainable. I'm trying to get away from the term balance and talk about being manageable and sustainable. But that's what it is having some level of balance, being able to have just enough of what you need from both ends of whatever spectrum we're talking about, so that you can be functional and be manageable, right, and be sustainable. So able to work with what you got and make sure that it lasts long term, and that's how we get better. So that's today's episode of the Woke Podcast. Just wanted to talk about escapism, drop something really quick. We're going to have some guests coming up pretty soon on the Woke Podcast. And as we move closer into this holiday season, I got some stuff up my sleeve to do something really dope on the podcast. So please continue to listen. Please subscribe. If you have any questions, if you would like to be a guest, or if you have any comments, hit me up. You can email me, jones@wokepodcast.com, jones@wokepodcast.com. You can hit me up on Twitter @The Woke Podcast. You can hit me up on Facebook at /Woke Podcast on Facebook. Just search The Woke Podcast. You'll find us on Facebook. YouTube channel is coming. I'm going to start doing some live streaming. Might even do some Facebook Live, even though I don't know about Facebook Live. I'm still pondering on how I feel about that. But I think I might start doing some of that. I really want to get into answering questions and having more conversations with the folks out there listening. So please feel free to hit me up. If you like the podcast, share it with somebody you care about. If you don't like the podcast, share it with somebody you care about and tell us why. With that said, as always, be safe, be constructive, be woke, be woke, be woke. Peace.